Oh, hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Oh, I'm just trying to work this camera. Let me know when you can see me. Can you see anything?
No.
Oh, no. Start video. Share contact participants. Oh my goodness.
Maybe if you're
off.
going.
Let's see. Let's try. Start video. Unable to access camera. Okay, you've just got the black thing for me.
No.
Privacy, settings, privacy, camera. Okay, let's try this again. Settings, privacy, camera.
Hi everyone on Zoom. We're going to get started very shortly. Just give us a moment. We're just making sure everything is working. Just want to make sure. Well, I can see you.
I can see me.
I can see you from there, so that's all good.
Yep. Then we go up and down.
Hey.
Before, just want to make sure we can go up
Yeah.
and down. Oops.
No, you just did it, hey?
Yeah. It wasn't a trouble before.
No. See, that looks like it's frozen again. See that?
Yep.
I think once it gets started, it's not going to be a problem. It's just that it doesn't.
Like waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody has to start their camera.
Oops. Hi. And have the bookcase in the background.
We were muted and our camera was off.
You just never know who you're going to get. You switch on the Zoom video.
Yeah, everyone has to unmute and turn their video on. Yeah, lower left-hand corner.
That's their presentation. We can take it.
Okay, there we go.
Go on.
All right. Okay, good to go?
Yep, let's do it.
Fantastic. Okay, lovely to see you all, everyone. I want to say thank you so much to Maree. Maree's been presenting for us a number of times, and we just love having you here and love having you as part of the family. So thank you so much. And if there are any issues on Zoom, I'll be coming in. So I'm sorry if there's going to be any disruptions, but yeah, and just give me a shout out. I'll be right outside the room if you need me.
Okay, thank you.
Go. Thank you.
Although it may seem a few times, it never gets any easier. Look, I just wanted to give thanks to everybody for coming along today and listening. I hope we can all learn a little bit from each other. I always say that everybody has a story, just not everybody actually shares it. and I put myself forward. So it's my turn to share today. So let me hope that you do enjoy it. Along the way, there'll be a couple of little things. I've got a bit of structure attached to it, and that's, I guess it helps better when we're Zooming as opposed to what we can do in terms of an interaction when we're face to face. I've chosen this particular topic for multiple reasons. One is it is my own home and it is very dear to me. It's also, we've just passed Seniors Week, and we've also seen how COVID has affected our elderly, and it's pretty critical what is happening across the world. And so the other component that's really hot topic right now is that the heads of governments are currently in high-level discussion and public consultation around introducing what we refer to as universal designs into the National Building Code. Now, there's mixed feelings about whether that should be in the code or otherwise, but there has been some voluntary guidelines, the liveable housing guidelines, in existence for quite some time now, but the uptake of it hasn't been all that extensive. And so today I thought that, you know, honouring our seniors, I have a bit of an opportunity to share with you about what some of universal housing design actually looks like. A lot of people think that it's about old people or people that don't, you know, with less mobility or disability, and that's not necessarily the case at all. So it's about future-proofing. And you might be saying, well, it's not me, you know, I'm not old, so why is it that we're talking about this? But universal is about everything and everyone all of the time. And so if I can just at least share one thing today that gives you an insight of thinking a little bit differently about your home, then we will have achieved something. But I hope between all of us, we actually learn lots. So one of the things that before I get too much into the case study, I just wanted to take a few moments, and I hope that you will play along with me on this one. It's a little bit different, but it's very relevant to what I refer to about the consciousness component of it. And it's a tool that we all have, but don't necessarily use. We lead such busy lives, and we really take not enough time to learn about our inner self. But not only about our inner self, and like, for instance, you guys, for one reason or another, are involved, either building, renovating, being professionals in that particular industry and helping others. So this tool is very widespread and it's readily available to us. But that fact that if we can connect to ourselves, it informs us about so much. But the other part of it is about taking this notion of building the home and loving the home that you're in, because it's what supports the purposeful part of your life. And, you know, a while back I would say to people when we discuss, you know, what sort of house they want or the style, you know, and some people want to spend less time in their homes and more on holidays. But I think this, you know, pandemic has told us that we've been told to live in our homes, whether we want the holidays and still long for all that social interaction, we're not getting it. So it's a good time to actually see things from that perspective and really learn to love where you live. So I'm just going to ask you to take a couple of deep breaths, slowly take your time. I'm just going to ring the little bells, and that's really about a start and a finish. It's not going to take too long. I want you to start to, when you feel comfortable about that breath and you're sitting, just no distractions around you, it's just you. And start to lower your eyes. If you feel comfortable, give them close. And I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine your life in 2 to 5 years from now. What will it look like? How different will it be from today? What would you be doing? With whom will you be working? What would that home be like? Where would it be? With whom will you be sharing that home? What would it feel like? What does it feel like? How content would you be? How happy would you be? From this vantage point in the future, in your own mind, look back to where you are today and imagine. Imagine what you can become and the steps you need to take to get from where you are now to where you want to be. Just take a moment to think about that. And when you're ready, so that probably took a whole part of less than a minute. But what it did do is just give us just that 1 minute to stop, block out what's around us and start to think about what there is. So you imagine if you introduce that into your life, and particularly when you're looking for some answers that you don't have, that slowing down of the mind is really important. And whether you believe in God or the Buddha, the universe, angels, regardless, we do know that there's something out there that's mystical and it's greater than what we can control. But what we can do is influence ourselves. And moving forward, that would be great. So today I'm going to share with you the case study on universal design and including future proofing. So this aims to create inclusive living. So step-free entrance right from the curb through to the front door, so that it's easy to enter, navigate and adapt should circumstances change. So there's an oversized garage with built-in workshop, storage, non-slip floorings allow for space in and out around the cars and the workshop activities. And we're aiming to make universal features blend into their environment and our environment. You're right. So I guess the content behind what we were trying to achieve was that, you know, citing the multi-layered nature of modern retiree was the emphasis behind our project. So it was about ideal for older occupants, so that's taking us from now till forever if we can stay there. About security in our golden years, but the creation cannot be overlooked as a sought after product for the younger generations planning for the future. So in our case, we had an experience of a decade of living with paraplegia. And as a couple, we've overcome lots of the daily challenges by creating the home that worked for us. The part of that whole thing too was about sharing. You know, I'm standing up here, my heart's beating fast, but we committed to share this experience so people could see and learn from what we created. So I guess the accident, you know, resulted in lifelong mobility challenges and limitations. And the harder challenge throughout all of the preparation with the build was that my husband doesn't see himself in a wheelchair and he doesn't see himself with a disability. And I never even learnt that till just recently, which has been part of the home. So you think about this, the person you might be residing with and you're working towards achieving greatness in your space, you don't necessarily know how someone else thinks or feels. So get that communication going. So, you know, collaboratively is working for the same thing. But it was about inclusiveness, that whole journey. You know, in and around the house was important. But when I talk about those livable housing guidelines, you know, it is for everyone, family and young people. Just because we have a wider doorway doesn't mean it's only for a wheelchair. There's prams, there's, you know, young youth who are injured through sports or whatever the case may be. But one thing for certain, we're all going to age. So if nothing else, a home that's thought about for the future is an important one. And one of the things I think we're quite proud about is that we use the caravan. And so it had to be part of the design of the house. You know, we'd spent like $60,000 on the caravan. So two things, A, we wanted to accommodate it so we could just use it and leave when we wanted to. But the fact that we actually integrated it into the house meant that in the future, it could be a carer's residence. It could be one of our grandkids come along and stay there and look after us. Who knows, you know, we let it out in Airbnb, lots and lots of things where some people don't even give that consideration. They love their travel, they want their caravan, and then it becomes a real big issue about where it gets stored, how you maintain it, how you get it ready in prep and post travels and things like that. So we took it even one step further, and it's like a guest suite as we speak. So when we have people stay over, or some of the grandkids, there's too much for in the house, they come and stay in the caravan. It's a novelty for them. But we wanted the home to share with our grandchildren. We've got 9 and 1 more, so we're going to make around 10. And we're very close to them. We spend a lot of time with pickups, drop-offs, all of those sorts of things. So family is very important to us. And we also wanted to share about, you know, this space with our friends. We've all been put on this earth to connect. And so it's really important to make sure that any of our thinking is around some priorities or values around how do we connect? What do we have some control over that we can, where we can connect? And that a third part was around what I mentioned before, was about, you know, sharing our love of design and showcase that to others. We chose a pavilion style because it allows us the most flexible floor plan, and it's really capable of altering in the future. So, you know, I often described it was about the kids' Legos. You could pick up those Legos and start to play around with your home's design, and you can chop and change. You can go up, you can go wider, you can do all of those things. So pavilion actually gives you that flexibility. And the other part about it is that you can actually apply your own personal interiors, because it doesn't matter whether you want to go industrial or whatever design you choose. Pavilion is actually a good way to actually do that. So where you might have a Hamptons, it's very Hamptons. Where you have other designs of homes, they're very much in keeping with that and only that, where this gives you some, you know, a bit of flexibility. And I have to say that pavilion's been around forever and a day, but what we're now doing is modernising pavilions. But it's also an exceptional design to connect with nature. And that's what it's about. We're part of the whole ecosystem. So how do we bring outside in, inside out, make it part of who we are? I'm just going to go back to my notes now, because I just wanted to, a couple of things, narrow down the scope. So I'm really talking about the interiors today as opposed to the exteriors and also construction side. So my specialty is around interiors, although I do get to influence a lot of externals as well. And so the difference being is, in terms of the build, the components of that build guide in an interior, or an interior guides the actual fixtures. So, you know, let's talk about bathrooms. So where the showers are going to be placed, all that happens behind the walls, all that happens long beforehand. But the interiors decides where's the best place for that. And then the interiors actually informs which fixtures will be going to be attached to that. So today, mostly what I want to touch on is the interior aspect. And so otherwise we'll be here all day instead of only an hour. But I think that, you know, when I talk about the interiors, and an important part is about the creative thinking that comes from the interiors. So, you know, it really is the artistic application and also the decoration component. So it comes in many forms. So for instance, the decoration part compared to the design component, it's about the furniture, the colours, the fabrics, floor coverings, window treatments, decor, and much more. But it's often the sum of those little individuals that really make that home yours. That's your personality, that's your bit. So whether you want to achieve that yourself or whether you want to engage a professional to assist you with that, they're the things that actually come together in a very important way in the home. So choose the bill, by the way. We're not talking about that today. So what I say that I do that's a little bit different, I guess, is that I do come from a coaching background. So it is about that whole purpose I mentioned before, but a calling, but it's about working to determine what values are. And values are really important as a tool to use when you're actually creating something for yourself. And look, values are something that no person has the same values. But what I've found across the board in dealing with people is that 3 values that come out fairly strongly is about sustainability. So people do have a conscious mind and think around sustainable. They want sustainable products. They want, for multiple reasons, they want to, you know, live a lifestyle that's, you know, free from maintenance and free from cleaning and all of those things. But they also have, people are really keen to know because they don't want to continue to damage the environment. So people are much more conscious around that. Affordability is always an issue. We've never had a case where people got that much money, it doesn't matter. And often if they've got lots, they're the hardest. So that's, and so the other part of it is about living in the home, what I mentioned, you know, what the livability aspects is really important. So they're 3 values that I use to guide, and particularly if I'm working with clients, and there was no different in my own case about, you need to make decisions along the way. And so one of the checkpoints is, does that decision, so, you know, do you want a light fixture that's going to be $1,500, or are you happy with a $500 fixture? And you love the $1,500, as everyone does, always love the one that's more. Will the $500 one serve the purpose? So you then look at what your values are and say, which of those does it fit in? And if it's neither of those 3, the chances are it'll sit to the side. And it could be that you say, okay, I'll go with the 500, and guess what? That's given me $1,000 then that can go towards something else. So it's a tool to guide. Other things that I've done some studies around feng shui, and there's no doubt about it, that the importance of, you know, getting that harmony in the home, the peacefulness. And, you know, I've had many people visit our house and say that how it feels nice and calm and all of those things. So there's certainly some value in knowing and learning a little bit more about that. And it does come back to health and wellness and well-being in the home. So yeah. And so those elements are important to use, and they also help with like your colour choices and things like that. So it's about getting that, you know, getting it right. So both design and decoration need innovativeness, resourcefulness, ingenious, courageous, boldness, but also a very special gift in order to convert a space which has the greatest influence on a person's life or how they feel in that space. So whether it's your own home or you're working with others, what an honour to be involved with in an industry that does that to somebody. So when we talk about, there's your call. I just put a few sketches because I was talking about design aspects here versus and coming down then to decoration. So floor plan, you know, is about the technical side of the drawings. The interiors is more the decoration side. When we come to cabinetry and things like that, that's about design. The decoration component of that has relevance to which of the colours you choose or the product finishes and all of that. And then, of course, all the pretties have to play a part. And they do all cross each other. They all are interconnected. They're all basically married together to come as a whole. So they all have relevance in the actual interiors and exteriors for that matter, but realistically, they're all the important aspects. So don't overlook them as, and putting them there for the importance of that. And I just wanted to show you there, and this is one of the key requirements for us, was that accessibility did not need to look clinical. And so this is actually what we've created. Like, so see that bath, that shower, that on over there in the ensuite, totally accessible, but still looks good. That downstairs, which is the guest one, there might be another picture comes along a bit more, but see that vanity over there? It's a little bit lower. Behind that's another hob-free shower with no screens and everything. And this is the guest. So this is downstairs, but what's come of that's really great about it is all the kids turn up and they can wash their hands, and more than ever they've got to wash their hands. So I guess the message I'm trying to get across is that they don't have to look clinical, but they can be very beneficial for all. So I talk about design and decoration, and so this is my office. So it's a really good example where design and decoration actually meet and integrated. So we talk about, I mentioned before about the structure. So there's design in those, you know, the cabinetry, which is a desk. But beside that's the aspect of the building. So where the window, where the glass is placed. So this is at the front of the house. So I'm a justice of the peace, and I have a lot of people come to my office, and also a lot of either clients want to do selections, or the suppliers come and bring samples and show me. So they don't have to come all the way through the house, but I can see what's going on, and I've got lots of air, lots of sun, all of those things that are good for your health and good for your ability to be able to produce along the way. And so, yeah, it's a very functional space, but at the same time, it's just very useful in terms of creating that nicety around where you are. Yeah. So the other part I wanted to just, and as I say, if I went through all the whole thing, we would be here for a long time. So I'm just picking on a couple of key parts. So that particular hallway there is something like 2 meters wide and 4-point-something meters high. The height was determined because of the caravan actually sits outside. So the length of the caravan had an influence on that. But what it did do is create the space where people enter your home and it feels good, it looks grand. And off to the side there are very large doors, and those doors are, you know, provide the great space for opening. So really what we've done is use really beautiful finishes and fixtures, but made it functional. Yeah. So we say you don't need to, you know, compromise on quality to make things more universal. So the other part I wanted just tap on a little bit was around the kitchen. So this probably doesn't give the best pictures to show it. It does look nice, but what I've done here that's really different was I started with a slab of stone, a geolux stone, so many meters wide and high. And I used that as the start and then designed the cabinetry all the way around it. So there's no difference between the laundry and the kitchen or the pantry. And so there's no splashback. So if you're in the laundry, you can see through. If you're in the kitchen, you can see through. And so it saves cleaning. Who likes cleaning splashbacks? The other is about the integration of appliances. And so you might notice like the ovens are sitting at that level. And again, it's about the capacity to be able to actually access and be part of that, the cooking. And there's other things too around the way there's bifold doors put in. So actually my husband can go in under with his wheelchair and do the cooking or do the washing out. And there's a lower bench that kids love to come along and share, and that's their sitting place for, you know, when they're visiting and eating and having morning tea. So a lot's gone into that whole design, but the outcome is that it's a very effective and efficient space. So a lot less walls, a lot less doors. So yes, it costs more in cabinetry, but it also freed up the space. Yeah. And I mentioned before about, you know, sustainability, and what I wanted to show here was that feature wall there was made from waste. So we'd spent a lot of time looking for what we could put into a feature wall that was a little bit unique and different, and all of a sudden the penny dropped, and we thought, well, we don't want all this waste to go underground somewhere. So we came up. So basically Nick came up with the design and instructed the boys to build it, and I choose the colours. So the colours had relevance to a couple of things. Yeah. It's James Hardie product. Yeah. It's what's used on the, it's used under the soffites and a number of areas, the parapet walls, all of that. So it's James Hardie. You know which one it is, the big one? Yeah. So it's painted in an iridescent gold rose. And what had happened was that the hero in the room was the tap, the kitchen tap. And see that? It was the hero. So you create a hero and you link it to something. So those big doors along that hallway that I showed you before, all painted the same. That wall's painted the same. And so too with there's a couple of pendants hanging over there. So when we talk about things we do in a home, there's lots of things. One is about anchoring, one is about matching. It's, you know, it's making sure that it all comes together, but not overbearing. You know, you don't want too many heroes in the one space, and you want to be able to find that whole balance. So yeah. And that feature stone too is another. And again, look, what I'm trying to say here, that quality doesn't need to be, you know, substituted when you want to try and create something. And so that stone out the front, it's at the front of the house. It's on the gatehouse, but it's also been introduced. So see there is a coffee wine bar integrated. So wherever possible, we use the same space for multiple purposes. And that was one of them. So it's always about making sure you link, it starts out here, it comes in, it's all through here, it goes out there, but it needs to be done in a very well and organized, balanced way. And these really were just a couple of shots just to show, whoops, we've got drawings going on here. That's interesting. Creating that balance and harmony and linking textures and patterns and colors. So, you know, that's out on a deck. So again, we're very close to nature. A lot of the decor in these particular rooms here are relevant to outdoors. So it's about bringing the trees in, it's bringing the flowers in. It's about us being part of the whole system. And you know, this is where decoration component or decor component comes into play. So when we talk about design, so interior, there's the building design and there's interior design. And of course, then there's all other design components that come with all of that. I often get asked, what's the difference? So the building designer takes responsibility. He has to have a particular license, and he takes all of the entire build in the plans, and that's what gets submitted for approvals. And it's complete roadmap. What the interior design does is have the best influence on the interiors. However, many of them also now are really high specifiers in the external space. So they start to specify what the external cladding and the finishes and the external colours are all about. And the thing that differentiates the designer to a decorator, in most cases they have or been to studies, had studies and a qualification that's either been at a university level or higher ed. But they have the capacity to do those technical drawings and take responsibility for those drawings. Where a decorator has less emphasis on their qualification. However, there's talk about that changing in the future. So, you know, there's a number of people that might fall under that same category, and whether they're staging, you know, homes and preparing them to sell. But most times a person who has a love and a passion for decoration also has a very keen interest in learning and upskilling in design. So they need to know about the space. They need to understand about the space. And more, that line is actually getting closer. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, Maree and I know each other quite well. I'm an interior designer. So the description Maree has given you of the actual building designer versus interior designer and interior decorator, if you think about it, there is a good symbiotic relationship with all of these fields because they're actually very specialised in their own right. The building designer takes care of the structural elements of any design.
Mm-hmm.
The interior designer oftentimes is the first point of contact with the client to start talking about the design vision. The interior designer then takes that vision to a building designer to interpret that vision in the best structural way. And the decorator dresses the space. A lot of interior designers don't actually like dressing spaces.
Yep.
Whereas I work in all three of those spaces, and I work very closely with a building designer. So it's not one without the other.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what we're learning in our own business now, is the importance of the collaboration. And you know, a message when we have a client that first comes along to inquire about a build, we say to them, is there a chance that we can now involve a building designer and an interior designer? Because they need to come together. There's still a very strong mindset about the value that an interior designer can bring. And there's this myth that it's too expensive and, you know, it's only the rich that actually engage the interior designer. But much of that's changed, you know. In over a decade, I've seen a significant shift in the sector now, where the interior designer is very much part of the build team. And I want to just give you an example, and look, if you get a chance, you can have a look. I'm not sure if the photos are up yet. So we now have another interior designer on our team, and I have to say that I've so much enjoyed learning from others, and in particular her. So we built this house at New Farm in Harcourt Street, so it was right on the edge in the valley there, and virtually their front gate was the footpath. So that's where they were. Narrow block. So the externals was probably not, you couldn't do much with it, but it was important. That particular project was about integrating two cultures. So we were building a house for somebody that lived over in Jakarta and had lived there for many years, and absolutely him and his family loved there, but were moving back to Brisbane to live. So the home and the specifications around it is very structural. It's very lineal, like lots of lines. There's reflections of lights that go this way and that way. There's herringbones in paving. So much of it is all the structural side of it. And you can stand back and think about how beautiful that looks and how creative that is. Do you know that it wasn't until I visited that house post-construction that it really called home? It was all decked out in these Indonesian type furnishing. And you would never even imagine that before you started. Fancy bringing that into this nice, beautiful, new, modern home. But they gelled, absolutely gelled. And to me, it really showed that that interior designer had such a vision that was going to work, that nobody else necessarily seen it until it was in place. And it's just brought all the soul and the spirit into the home, and it's really colourful and it's really beautiful. So that's what they can bring that you don't necessarily think about when you're actually doing some work. But the other thing is the interior designers, like the builders, don't even have a lot of time to sit back and really get reward from what they've done. You know, before you finish one job, you're already into the next one and it rolls. So that whole importance that we spoke about, or I spoke about earlier, was about stepping back, taking time to learn yourself, but taking time to also admire what you're doing. So don't underestimate your own skill and capabilities in these spaces. It's really important to know that. How are we going for time? I haven't got my watch on at the moment. So just a couple of other points, I guess, that I wanted to add was about the technology. Like, we've got so much to offer in technology these days, and it can just really, you don't have to invest all the money up front, but it's the back end that's important to have it there. But that whole automation or security cameras, all of that. So sometimes it's something that sits over here because we're too busy thinking of something else. It's important to bring it to the table, and they're experts in the field, and you're just, you know, it's mind-blowing what is available, but you need to work with the team that you've got on board to make sure that you at least got the core of it there. I showed you back there, I don't know if people have seen it, but there was that, the caravan. So, you know, it was creating a space with that was different. But see, even under the caravan is that beautiful timber flooring, so it extends all the way out. So again, it's a smaller amount of space than you think it is, but it gives you a very grand appearance. There were a couple of other things there that around the accessibility stuff. But this here, and I guess where I'm coming from is about, it's about sustaining a life. That's what we're on about here. So even that seamless connection between indoors and outdoors allows that engagement and makes life simpler and safer. Now that sounds all good and dandy in this particular place, situation, because we made sure we bought a block that didn't need a lot of changes in terms to making it flat. But if you're getting a block that is a challenge to you, make sure that you can work towards getting something that's as seamless as possible. Because if connection is one of your important goals or values, then they need to put the effort into the space of getting it there. So yeah, this whole measure of success, so, you know, no obstacles around. So community and family connection gives a sense of belonging. And I think that's important more than ever now. We've got to feel like we belong. We've got to feel like we belong to the neighbourhood. We've got to feel like we belong. You know, this COVID has taught us to get to know other people and chat when they're walking the dogs, or things that you know, people get too busy about. And so in terms of sustaining a life, you know, I talk about, it means being able to do all things all of the time, or as much as possible of the time, and keep that in mind. Like in you know, in our case, we do have a lift, but some people think, well, that's an expense way and above. And I can tell you now, lifts are getting cheaper. But even if it's the thought of, what if we wanted to put a lift in the future, where would be a good space? So you sort of leave it that it can go in a place. We didn't put in a swimming pool, so we basically substituted a swimming pool for a lift. Our upstairs area is fully self-contained, which means multi-generational living. So if we move out and someone moves in, that space, you know, returning adult child, or our kids have all come home sometime or other to build another house. And so they're all the things that are really, really good. But yeah, it's about that whole sense of making sure you feel part of the community. You know, functionality is important, and it's also important to make sure that it's reflective of you. That's really important. if you need any help in those particular areas. You know, we've got here we've got this whole centre, which is a great resource to have, and what they don't have, they'll certainly help you with. We have, and I'm also a member of the Interior Designers Association, which has a great membership of professionals in all different types of fields. So that's another avenue if you want to tap into some professional people to help you. And people offer varying levels of service. So you may not want to buy a full service, you may only want to buy part of a service. I just added this little bit here about, you know, that it's, you know, it's not just meeting standards, but excelling, and that had some, you know, relevance to the national code I was referring to before. So yeah, invest now, it saves a lot for later. You don't have to put grab rails or anything in your house, but if your thinking is you just have more ply in the walls where that's capable of being added at another time. So, and the other component was to do with what? I've got a video to show you, but I wanted to just see if people had any questions. I always find people love to talk about colours, how do you choose colours? So if anyone's got any questions, and I know Shivana will bring some in from the people that are online, you know, far away.
Just from the point of view of design, not colour, you've got a lovely area upstairs, which would be, how much time do you spend up there? Because I'm thinking of the two levels. You've got the veranda space up there and the view, perhaps.
Yep.
So how much value do you get from that? Do you there's sort of a hard decision to make there whether you put that up there, because how much time do you spend up there enjoying that? Yeah.
So I've just been asked about, you know, what's the value of the upper level? How much time do you spend there in relation to the cost that's being implied or assigned to that particular area? So in our case, for instance, we have a magnificent city view. So that was the first. We can lie in bed and watch the fireworks. So all of that's been designed around that. So the master bedrooms upstairs, and obviously the bathroom, the ensuite. But we've also got another area that really is like a rompus room, and another bathroom off that. That rompus room is my husband's office. So all day, every day, that's being used. In the morning when we get up, we have our coffee and all of that around and stay upstairs until we go down. And then I go downstairs and work in my office. So again, that worked for us. It's about you spending a little bit more time to think about, is that going to work for you and why? Is it worth the investment? You need to determine if that's where you need to put your money. Yeah, okay. Or the other was there any questions?
Oh,
just might check if there's any other question. Yeah.
We live in a unit and it was built in 1999.
Yep.
And it has this ceiling where it looks like it's been mocked, you know, like that.
Oh yeah, that. Yeah.
Plaster. Yeah.
Spray.
And we don't really like it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, just in terms of ceilings and the.
So first you need, first of all, you need to get determined whether it's got asbestos, because often they do. And most times when people are going to renovate those types of accommodation, they actually have it they actually put plasterboard up and have it redone. It does lose a little bit of its height. That's the downside of it, but yeah.
So it also depends on
and what
the legal height requirements.
Yeah.
So in living spaces, you need 2.4 minimum living height. So if you've got enough ceiling space, and oftentimes in those buildings, you'd find that lighting fixtures, for example, they're not recessed, so you don't have a downlight opportunity. So if you've got space and height, they're great new innovations where you can put downlights into a very small ceiling space. So if you had to add another ceiling layer to cover up that stipple, you need about 80 mil to be able to accommodate lighting and have a flat ceiling. The other option is, and it's quite intensive work, but it's work when you don't have the opportunity to play with the height. I've, in the previous project, had it sanded off. Terribly messy. But it can be.
And you don't do that if it's got asbestos. That's it.
Of course. The test has to be done.
And if there is height, the great thing is that you can put lots more services in there that you could never do before. So there's some advantages on it, really. If you do have height, it's really low.
Yeah, so 2.4 is your challenge. You probably find it's 2.480, and that 80 will give you the allowance to be able to do another ceiling space.
Thanks. We're just going to quickly run through a video, and yeah, we'll do that first.
Yeah, we have questions then, hey?
Yeah, it's not very long. It's really just reassuring the sort of stuff I just went through, I hope. There we go. Got to say that. Oh, wrong video.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Should we go up?
Yeah, we better go back.
Sorry.
I know these lines well, they're on the web, so yeah. Back button.
I think you press the next video.
Oh, did I?
Okay.
Oh, did I? Oh, soul. Where should I go? There.
Yeah.
Here at O'Shea, I've got a list of future-proofed our latest projects. Let me show you how. Our Pavilion Lotto project is a case study in universal housing that aims to create inclusive living. And what we've done is made the universal features blend into their environment. We've been able to achieve a step-free entrance right from the curb through to the front door so that it's easy to enter, navigate, and adapt should circumstances change. Practical solutions include oversized garage with built-in workstation, allows for space in and around the cars and the workshop. Ground level accessible bathrooms with extra bracing should grab rails be needed for the future. Adjoining spacious bedrooms with strategically placed furniture. Effective and efficient use of space around the kitchen and laundry, resulting in extra wide bench tops, carrying back and reducing the number of walls and doors and elimination of the splash back. Integrated appliances, all within functional reach and usability. Pull down doors from pantry again, easy for young or old to use. Pull out storage enables access from either side. Lots of useful drawers for kitchenware and linen. Lower level bench, great for kids or the elderly. We have even included a lower level clothesline as an option. A seamless connection between indoors and outdoors allows for engagement and makes life simpler and safer for residents or visitors, young or old, able-bodied or mobility challenged. We've added a lift in the event our aging parents need their own space. You're going to love this retreat. Here in the upper level retreat, sporting a huge deck with city views, the occupants benefit from a separate kitchenette, leisure room, which could also be considered as a carer's room in the future, generous sized master suite with built-in robe, and a beautifully appointed ensuite. Again, recessed vanities, no glass or obstructions on the showers, extra bracing should shower chairs or grab rails be needed in the future. This home is a multifaceted approach to design, building and living. It proves that quality does not need to be sacrificed when planning for the future. It's not difficult to future-proof your new home. In fact, it will become a very valuable asset to your family.
Okay, so that's all I have. So if you haven't got any other questions, then certainly come and ask, or I can hang around. And I've left some magazines. Just in that little lift out one, the HIA one, the little one, just inside there's a 2-page spread of the house. And what that has done is we did an assessment against lockdown in COVID, during COVID, to see how the house could be utilised, and it passed all the, it's just the inside cover, the first page there. But yeah, so all the different aspects about how we could sit out on the driveway and have our Sunday dinners with the neighbourhood, and anything that, you know, that we needed to change, we could change to fit in, given the circumstances. So I guess that's the sort of thing I'm trying to say, is there's times when we just get pushed somewhere in a different direction, and if you can consider that now during your own work, then please do so.
So you said like affordability is obviously a key thing for everyone. Like what's the sort of build cost that would be to a client that was to try and build that sort of home, obviously sideways and stuff there?
So it's in the Grand Design magazine, and I think that the quote price around it's sitting around $900,000. But that included all the preparation before the build, the landscaping, all the furnishings and all of that. So that's was included in the project. Yeah. Let me say this about people who are considering renovating and building is the cost. So I always say, if you've got a budget, double it. And everyone waits, whoa, but let me tell you, that's closer to reality than not. If you end up with change, it's wonderful. But the hardest part is to start with half the money that you're going to need, because it's a stressful enough exercise as it is without always being put under the pressure about the cost. So, and at the moment, the cost to build is far more progressing than you can save. So the last 2 years, we have noticed significant expense in building, significant change. So what was, you know, 600,000 now is probably closer to 8. It's just really is the cost of everything. Our greatest challenge right now is supplying products. And you can think you've got it all in the bag, and you go to get it, no sink. Where's the sink? No, that'll be coming in December. We got the stone people on site ready to come and fit. Like, it's unbelievable. And yeah, and they reckon it's every industry. So whether you're wherever it is, so the sooner you get stuff ordered, the better.
On build cost as well. So that, you know, when we talk about new build costs versus renovation cost, there's a significant difference between the two as well. So renovation cost is on average sitting between 20 and 30% more than new build cost. That's the reality.
Yeah.
So just be mindful when you're doing, you know, they're great tools like cost calculators if you go online, all those things, but they're not giving you a true picture, particularly when it comes to renovation costs. It's the unknown factor of a renovation that can drive the budget way off the page.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of unforeseen, and it's not because the builder is avoiding answering your question about what it's going to cost. They just don't know.
Don't know until it starts to come out.
And see what's underneath and what's behind.
So yeah, when you're renovating, budget plus 30%.
So we try really hard to do a fixed type of contract. We do put some PCs or provisional sums in, but they're generally around finishes, so people can choose that finish over that, you know, that brand over that brand. And that again comes back to those values, you know, apply that. If you want a wool carpet versus synthetic carpet, they're the things that you can make some choices on, but we really try and not change the price in a build contract, unless again it's an unknown that's just totally come out of the blue. So yeah, we also have a really strong commitment to try and turn them around, like the builds, you know. Yeah.
When we talk about sustainability then,
yep.
Can you sort of balance that? Is that going to be more expensive?
Often it is. Yeah. Often the better things cost more. But it's about in the future. So let's hit the solar. You know, how much does it cost to install solar versus a standard hot water system? huge, $10,000 or more, you know. What's it meant to do? No power bills, you know. So over time, you're getting that back. You know, even in the products that you're choosing those that are going to last longer, that's going to have less maintenance attached to them. It's offset by living a more freer life and, you know, not keep throwing money at it along the way. Yeah.
The sustainability aspects are very interesting one, because there's this expectation that there's an instant gratification attachment to the initial investment, but it actually isn't. You only benefit from that decision down the track. It's not immediate, so it's a smart choice to make the investment, but you actually derive the benefit down the track, not immediately.
Probably noting the environments. Like
So with the
it will
choices
be
that you
an
make-
advantage for the environment
financially.
Yes, so in terms of the impact of...
So one of the really important aspects is the relationship. And part of my role, I always say relationship management. So whether that's a couple and I have to manage the conflict that comes out of what one wants and the other one doesn't want to pay for. But the other is, the huge is the relationship with the suppliers. So in essence, if you have a look at, you know, a quality builder, and you can do that by, you know, talking to people who've used them, or, you know, you actually get a really good understanding about what it is that they supply. In our case, our relationship with the supplier is every bit as important as the relationship with the client. And I say that because they're the ones that can help us save the money for the clients along the way. They're the ones that, you know, can turn around when we run out of these products that we can't. They're the ones that are on the phone trying their absolute best to get them. And so, and if new stuff's coming out, they let us know in advance. Like we're using at the moment some Fienza tapware that hasn't even been put on the market. So, you know, they're the things that, there's a lot more that goes on than just these, you know, builders that turn up on site and starts, you know, using nailing guns and the like. So a lot behind the scenes goes on, and this is where the sustainability aspect comes on. It's about that whole choice of quality, and if you have a look at those supply products, they always are being done by a conscious supplier, a conscious manufacturer. You know, James Hardie's a really good example. Look at all the years of claim that's happened, and they've done nothing better than the products that they produce now, and the least impact that it can have on people's health. But it's also the longevity of the actual products in themselves. They're great, you know.
What do you think of the Hebel blocks that you can do?
The eco blocks.
Yeah, Hebel ones.
The Hebel ones. I won't get into that. I'm not an expert in
Hebel.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, so I won't say that.
Where would you ask if you...
Why don't we ask Richard?
Because you don't want to go on either side.
What do you think about Hebel blocks, Mr. Architect?
Yeah.
Putting me on the spot. When we talk about sustainability, anything to do with concrete, you're on losing that. It's every cubic meter of concrete we manufacture CO2 into the atmosphere. I'm not an expert. I don't know what way you can get around that. Perhaps trying as far as possible to use timber floors rather than concrete-based floors. But you're also losing that in terms of sustainability when we talk about steel. Steel supports anywhere within the structure are adding to CO2 emissions. Sustainability for me always rings bells, and only sets you on course of the timber house. true to your house.
But on the other side, the steel is also a really precious structure, and we know it's not going to fall down in a hurry. And so,
Yes.
you know, these are it's a
balance.
you do everything is the balance.
Put it on the floor with your steel frame.
but you know, and that's why there's so much more timber floors being used these days than has ever been used. And again, it is multiples. It's connecting with that nature. Mother Nature's there inside that timber. It lasts a long time, but it's a very natural product and less intervention with, yeah.
Well, I can sound that we just bought it, ugliest house in Victory Pocket, but it's sanded down floors. They 50-year-old brush box, solid timber, and we have been polished up, and they did a wax finish. They look amazing. And it's just so wonderful to see, you know, there's that floor. It was, built 1970.
Yep.
And bring her back to beauty. I just love it. I'm so glad it didn't demolish.
Yeah. And there's pluses and minuses. Of course, at how much a square metre more expensive it is to renovate. But, you know, we do we need both.
So if I had to replace that floor with a new floor,
yes,
it would be $5,000 or $40,000 for a new floor.
Yeah.
And if you have two strong boys at home that can demolish, you have to pay for those prices. It's going well. Thank you. Any more questions, anyone?
I had a question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Your house, what was the floor to ceiling height on the ground floor?
Well, in that entry there, it's like 4.8 or something. But the rest of it, there's another section. There's about 3.5, say. Yeah. So it has got different levels, like in the garage, and this is where that pavilion thing comes in. Like you've got that capacity if you want to go higher or build on top or whatever. So the garage is one height. So it's all broken down in actual pavilion segments, so to speak, and we call it, you know, that's the gallery pavilion, and that's the studio pavilion, and that's the retreat. So we've actually broken it down in that. And look, we see that as a footprint that exists already now. So it's about saving people time and money if they can take that and build on it or change it to their liking. Yeah. So the height actually creates. It's 300. It's only a 2-bedroom house, by the way, but it's got 2 rooms. It's got 2 rooms that's 2 offices. Could be bedrooms, could be rooms, could be whatever. And it's set up that my husband could live upstairs and I could live downstairs, or if he has to move down and live, you know, the whole thing can meet all the different scenarios if possible. But yeah, so height gives a feeling of grandness when it isn't necessarily big. But it was determined from the caravan.
Where do other people start? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That you've done that. It's very specific, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It took a while.
Yeah.
It took a few years to get to decide what you wanted to do though.
Our planning planning took 3 times more than build. The build was 5 months, but it's not the shortest one we've done. Like there's a lot that kicked our butts along the way. Yeah, well, that's part of it. You know, the belief of my son's the builder, so he believes it costs him money not to get in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Labour's probably one of the such a huge cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many do you have on the go at a time?
It depends. So right now we've got probably 4 or 5, but 3 of them are ready to finish. So we've just finished a renovation at Holland Park West, which was way over. Did you guys go through? Yeah.
Yes.
And to believe it's a renovation, you wouldn't like. The only thing really that was left is like the front bedroom, and the rest is new. But it still followed the same footprint as the existing. Huge structural issues with their previous house, but it was over $1 million. But it's a Greek family and they entertain a lot of people. So cooking was really important to them. The outdoor area, they got like 3 grown-up boys that they expect the partners to come back and live in that home. So yeah, hey?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you know, so that's what it's about, you know, building for now and the future. That's what they were doing, and they had the money to do it. So, you know, yeah. So we've got 2 houses. I don't know if you've seen them at Indooroopilly. They're one's very close to being finished, and therefore Dr. Gomes. So he's been on Australia Story a few times. He's that hut specialist that runs around our bush with the big semi-trailer and treats all the people. But these are investment homes, but they'll go to the market for over $2 million, and they're Hamptons. So we differentiated them in making one Hampton like what we call more of a modern Queensland twist, and the other one's more on a bit of an like a traditional Queensland home, you know. But at Indooroopilly, yeah. But you know, that's what the demand is in that area, and people want, you know, they've got a nice school or college just down the road. They've got some like swimming excellence or something going on around there. So people are they're investing. That's not their own homes, you know.
So really, what you're saying here is the real estate is, you know, what we're seeing now, which is phenomenal rises in Brisbane.
Yes.
It's dictated by the building actual costs as well. So the replacement costs of any home, because I don't understand the way people keep purchasing these. You know, the prices just keep going up.
But they are.
So unaffordable.
Yep. In the area that we live in, the cost to buy either existing or a cleared block is not far off $1 million, and you haven't even started to build. So real estate is hot. Building is hot. Like these times, everyone thought it would actually go the other way, but so many people, I think, have spent time in their homes and now realising the need to actually alter that and to do improvements. So they're either doing DIYs or they're engaging professionals. So if you talk about supply and demand, it's never been so much in demand. But what has slowed down is the commercial side of building. And so like a lot of commercial builders are moving in the domestic space because their work's like sort of gone down. We've got what we call the project builders or the volume builders, where they're moving into the residential space as well. So, but everyone's, yeah, a lot going on. And we're finding, you know, if you've got any kids that need a trade, tilers, we can't get enough tilers. No one wants to be a tiler. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was really refreshing.
Thanks. Okie doke. So you're a king.